Good evening. Let's call this meeting to order. This is Tuesday, May 28th. This is the Chelmsford Conservation Commission. If you're in the wrong room, just let you know, that's the meeting here tonight. We'll be following the published and posted agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom, and in the case of the Zoom not working properly, we will continue the meeting in person only. And now we can start. Chris is here. So the meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia, and will be available on their website and on YouTube. We have, beginning with open session for citizen concerns. Are there any citizen concerns that are not on our agenda that someone would like to bring to our attention? Anything on the Zoom, David? No? Nobody there? Okay. I don't see anybody coming up, so let's go to the first item under this open session. We have a request for removal of trees on Conservation Commission land located between 44 and 46 Old Stage Road. David, do you want to just talk about that for a moment?
Sure. Greg and Ann are here, and they called me probably a couple of months ago concerning some trees that were on the Conservation Commission land down on Old Stage. You want me to bring up a map? See where this is? No. So there is a, I don't know, maybe a 5 or 6 acre piece of the commission's land that with a small strip of frontage that goes out to Old Stage Road, and there's a stream there. I think it's Farley Brook, where there's a 5 or 6 trees right there growing on the land. So it's 2 spruce, 1 pine, 1 ash, 1 red maple, and 1 oak on the left side of the brook, and then 2 pines on the right side of the brook. I think probably the majority of the trees are growing right on the bank of the stream, and some of the roots are eroding. I think there is a legitimate concern that a number of these trees will potentially come down in a high wind, especially the pines, which have notoriously shallow roots. So I asked Ann and Greg to get an estimate of the cost to take down these trees, and I said, well, because they're on the commission's land, the commission has in the past paid for removing trees in this case and may do so again.
Okay.
And this is the estimate. It's $5,000.
Okay. Questions from the commission? Chris, do you have anything?
I mean, has there been any update from the town manager's office as far as kind of the policy around taking down trees and who does it? And who...
Yeah, it's on us. We've got more money in our budget this year for this kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, I should say in our coming year,
Okay.
2025 budget.
Okay. All right, good. I'm good then.
Okay. Mark?
If they do the work now, we have the funds now to pay it?
No.
No, the work would be in July, I
Right.
think.
I think it's already been scheduled for, I think, the 16th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it prudent to get more than one estimate?
We could.
I'm sure it's
Who is this with
okay,
again?
but
This is Iron Tree.
Yeah.
In my personal property, I found a wide variance in estimates.
for the same job?
Yeah, for, big trees, crane.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
See what everybody says.
Bill?
I think we should get a couple of bids.
Okay,
You'll definitely find
that's no problem.
lower bids, and we've seen some of those companies in the neighborhood. And I wouldn't feel comfortable.
I'm sorry, could you come up to the podium, please? Say your name.
Greg Cormier, 44 Old Stage.
Thank you.
So we have a lot of tall pine trees in the neighborhood. Anytime there's a storm, there's, multiple tree companies around. Some of them have knocked on our door and asked to take them down right then and there. Obviously, it's on conservation land. This company, when they came out, they said, we won't touch this until you get approval. And they've done work, I think, for the commission before. So, of course, there's 1,000 companies out there. I'll go get bids if you want, but I trust these guys where they've done work in Chelmsford on conservation land before, so. But it's, I mean, if we're gonna go lowest bid, you know, we might end up with a mini excavator in the conservation land or a tree cut that wasn't supposed to be, so. But you guys tell me.
Okay, thanks. I do think we've seen them before. We have had them do work.
Yes, on 94 Meadowbrook Road.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool, it's, yeah.
Are we comfortable with any other companies that they could get some bids from?
Arborist and Marquis has done work for the town for it.
Maybe get
They're reliable.
a bid from each of those, 3 bids, and then,
We can do that.
I'm not against doing the trees.
Yeah.
I just don't wanna
Right.
spend 5,000 if we can do it for 4,000.
Right, but making sure that they're all not just insured, but they have liability and second workman's comp insurance. You guys familiar with that? A lot of people
Right.
don't understand that.
It was Arborist and Marquis, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I-
Arborist back here.
I've actually had arborists I do work in my yard. I'm familiar with
Okay,
that
I
company.
can email you the contact information for both of
Sure.
those.
We'll do that.
okay. Bill,
I'm
anything
good.
else?
Nope.
Peter, anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First, to answer your question, Chris, I have the opportunity to work with our town tree warden, and she frequently gets requests from the public for the town, I'm going to say this carefully, to remove a tree on the public right-of-way. I'm not talking specifically conservation land, just the public right-of-way. And their policy, and again, we might want to check this, is that they don't want the town, or they will not authorize the town to pay for removing a tree unless it's considered a hazard. And that brings me to my first question. David, you've seen the property. I saw it from the car window. But did you get a chance to see the erosion issue?
Yes,
And is it,
I
if
think.
it
there's a
was
legit-
your place, would you be worried?
Yeah, I would be.
Okay, that's important.
I don't think we're debating the necessity.
Yeah, we're not
We're just
debating
debating the
this.
price, that's all.
3 bids.
Well,
Reasonable.
let Peter talk.
Well, the other question is, are all these trees in that eroded condition, or just a few of them? And a related question, are all of them big enough that they would hit the house? I mean, I saw the pine trees, I'd be worried about that too.
Yeah.
But I didn't really notice that some of the others, and I just throw that question out there.
Yeah, I think most of them would hit either house, either or both houses, depending which way they felt. But I also think there's a legitimate concern if one can fall on the yard and someone for some reason has to be out there at the time.
Or a car.
Yeah,
Liability.
or a car.
Take them down.
Yeah, and then my other question was, what happens to that strip of land, which is wetland buffer, once the trees are cut? I mean, it's our land, I guess, or the town's land. It's your yard.
Well,
Have you
like, for
had any
example,
thoughts?
On my side.
Yeah, can you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we both maintain a lawn on either side of your buffer or whatever is the proper term for that. So
Yeah.
we would continue to do that.
But what
Uh,
about
it-
the conservation land itself? Once you remove the trees, then different things are gonna grow,
Well,
which you may or may not want there.
Yeah, I mean, once if the stumps are left, the bank shouldn't erode any faster than
Right.
it already is.
Right. Was that the plan? Leave the stumps?
Yes, yes. And I mean, invasives will likely come back. That's just a fact of life these days.
Yeah, we have a lot of bittersweet there, which of course everybody does.
Yeah,
Town flower.
town flower.
Oh, the town flower.
Maybe that's the approach.
Thank you. All right, John, anything?
I just suggest the 3 bids, Marquis, and just check it out. And they're all reputable companies, they all have insurance.
Yep, yep.
There's no question about insurances with any of these companies. Okay, that shouldn't even be a factor. And,
They've all done work for the town
no,
before.
just
just take care of the problem. That's my opinion.
Okay, so I think at this point, it sounds like we're in agreement to have this done. I don't know if we need to vote on it, but I think if we just get get a couple more quotes, get that information to David, and we can authorize David to take care of that.
So do you want it to come back to the meeting, or you just
No,
I don't
go
think
with,
so.
go with the lowest?
You can, something you can do, right? If it's
I can
4,500.
Yeah, I can
and
certainly
then
do that.
one of the three,
We'll know what's lower. You'll know
That's
what's
right.
lower.
well, he has to approve it.
My brain is still good to that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
You may
Yeah.
want a
with no more
motion-
questions, it's easy, it's done, you
Sorry?
know.
You may want a motion to authorize
yeah,
him to.
yeah, why don't we take a motion, though? I think
Can
it's a good idea.
can I comment?
Yeah, yeah.
While I have the homeowners here, I don't know if we want to do anything as a commission, but it occurs to me this is part of Farley Brook, which is part of our watershed, all that stuff. And if it were me, and it had a bunch of stumps left, I'd be planting some bushes out there. Of course, it's Conservation Commission land, we have to talk about how to do that. But in terms of our obligation to think about habitat, that would be an easy, not that a shrub replaces a tree per se, but
Will we just go to David for permission? Oh.
I would
Greg's
think
gonna
so.
talk to you.
Yeah, I was gonna try to do the trees now and then, come back at some point and talk about what to do long-term, because it's gonna be 8-foot high bittersweet. And it's also, as you come down the hill on Old Stage, it's a nice buffer now. You don't look right into our house. Now it's gonna be headlights, it's gonna be everything. So I guess phase 2 would be coming up with getting an environmental engineer or architect or whatever you call that, to maybe do a planting plan, bring that to you, and then talk about, how to share the cost or something like that.
Yeah, and my thinking, David, you're good at this too. My thinking is, I don't even know if it's necessary to incur additional cost. Just go to our list of wetland plants and trees and pick a few, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, we both
Yeah.
love to garden.
Yeah,
Okay.
That would be
Happy to
great.
work with Greg and Ann on that.
Yeah,
Great.
okay, we can come up with
Thank
something.
you.
Yeah,
All right,
thank
so,
you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I make a motion then that we approve the request, subject to 3 responsible bids being obtained, and that the lowest responsible bid be chosen and with a not to exceed amount of $5,000.
Second.
Okay, motion from Chris, second from Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes, thanks, thank you,
Thank you.
thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
All right, next on our agenda, we have a report from our liaison with the planning board. Hello, Chris, good evening.
Good evening. We met last week. It's the last week of the staggered meetings between the two groups. We reviewed the decision on 270 Billerica Road, and next meeting will be likely our final vote after reviewing all the documents and decision one last time. Should be pretty quick. We had 110 Middlesex Street on our agenda, but neither the attorney nor the applicant showed, so we continued that to June 26th. I mentioned that because we did get a letter from the conservation agent about that project. We discussed Brick Hill Road. We had a small design change to the stormwater, essentially moving the stormwater feature that was near MW1 to the back of the property, and essentially combining those two stormwater features. And pretty small design change. We'll be reviewing the plans next meeting on June 12th, and likely a decision document and likely a final vote. So pretty small change, and decision will be next meeting as well. Hildreth, we had no hearing at the last meeting, and I believe that's continued to our next meeting on June 12th as well. And that's it.
Questions for Chris? Anything? Okay, thanks, appreciate the update, good to hear. Next, getting into regulatory hearings, our NOI, this is continued from April 9th, Mass Electric, 15 Concord Road. And are we discussing this? Is it continued? We do have okay.
So I think Tim Sullivan is here on behalf of National Grid, and Bob Hartzell, who's the commission's peer reviewer at CEI, is also here. So, so Bob, maybe you could just describe the review of the NOI that your office did.
Hello, Bob, do you hear us?
I don't think you can hear us. Oh, you let me go.
Oh, it's not very loud. Hello, yeah, that's, is that Tim? Oh, that's Kalen.
No, I think it's.
Our volume is really low. Hold on, guys. Hold on, it's really, the volume in the room is very low. We can't hear you.
Try the white knob.
Say testing 1, 2, 3. Bob or Kalen? Can somebody online say something, please?
That's just enough for you.
Yeah, not hearing it. It's not doing anything. We're getting IT help. Hold on.
He's working on it.
Really? Do you draw a test pattern?
Look at the plan.
Hey, Bill, I have a complete set.
That's a different one.
Yeah, how we doing, Pete? It's still not hearing it.
We need to be done with Zoom.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about this. Could you guys give me maybe 5 minutes? Is it possible that you could go to another agenda item, come back to this that doesn't have Zoom potentially? I just need a couple minutes to restart the system.
I think we can find something, yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, folks, if you can hear us, he's gonna restart, and we'll come back to this agenda item in a few minutes. So we're gonna jump to something else, so not in our regulatory section. So we can do an update on the preparation of the new open space and rec plan. How about that? Does that sound like a good topic? All right, that's on our agenda. So we have an open space and rec plan. We had a meeting last week. It was, last Tuesday night, so we're meeting the third Tuesdays of the month, I think it is. We do have a survey that's going to be open to the public for everyone to take, and that should be available on June 1st. We're having some last-minute discussion on that. I think we're going to close on that and get that out on this Saturday, June 1st. There is a farmer's market on Saturday, June 1st, and Saturday, June 8th. We will have a presence at that, both of those farmers markets. And this is with the folks from NEMCOG, and a couple of us will be there. Come on out and say hi. We also will have a open space and rec plan open house on Thursday, June 20th, and this will be at the Senior Center at, I think it's 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock that night. It's a Thursday night, June 20th. So we will, there'll be a few other booths there, we think. Soon we'll recruit a few other groups to be there. And that's what's going on there. So the survey will be open to the public. It's an online survey. Should take, I'm going to guess, 10, 12 minutes, something in that order of time. And anything I'm forgetting, Peter?
Yeah, just a comment to my fellow commissioners. One thing we're trying to do is get a good response to the survey, including, we had quite a bit of discussion about underrepresented populations, meaning people that don't, normally get involved in the town events and may not, how do you reach them or even let them know? So my thought was, to the extent you've got energy, if you've got a mailing list of town friends, it'd be good to publicize this. It'll be open for, what, 2 months?
I think it's most of the summer, into August, I think.
Yeah,
something
but
like
it was
that.
really sort of important to get a good snapshot of much of a cross-section of the community as possible.
Comments, questions?
I can use my voter mailing list that I sent out when I was running for water district.
Good.
There's 50, 60 people in there.
Yeah, that'd be
Only
great.
2 voted for you, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I left myself open.
Tough crowd. So everybody in the audience too, if you want to participate. I think it'll be, Paul Cohen sends out his town manager's monthly update on the first of the month, give or take a day. I believe the information will be in there. I think it'll be on the town website. So if you keep your eyes and ears open, you should be able to see it. And it looks like we're coming back online here.
What are you expecting from hot pond weed treatment?
That's just a request for an extension to the order of conditions.
Do that?
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. So that would be,
Take a vote.
is that near the end? That's near the end of the approval. So request for extension to order of conditions 1290912. This is the Hart Pond weed treatment. They have provided some annual reports, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
We've got those copies.
Yep.
Okay, so, any questions,
How
comment?
long
on
an
that?
extension we're looking at? Is it a 3 year?
3 years.
3 year?
Expires June 17th. That'll be till June 17th, 2027.
All right, I move that we extend it again for another 3 years.
Okay, motion from Chris.
Second.
Any further discussion? Second from Bill. Okay, all in-
Yeah, just a comment, kind of the obvious, we've got a study going on the other big lake.
Freeman, yeah.
Yeah, and at Hart Pond, they did hire a, new consultant, probably not new, but some time ago, that's doing a little bit of what's going on at Freeman. So obviously, when the Freeman,
That's certainly louder.
obviously, so I just want to point out, in my mind, when the Freeman work is done, then we've got 2 comparative things, and maybe there's an effort
Yep.
down the road to
Right,
Okay.
that's good.
figure out.
Good to synchronize them and
Yeah.
and align.
I mean, they may be different. I mean, maybe
Right,
a
I think
different
there's a
approach.
little
I'm not
difference,
saying
but,
that. I'm not saying it has to be the same, just
Yep.
what we've learned.
right.
Okay, so motion from Chris, second from Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, unanimous. And I'm not liking it. It sounds the same. Kellen, is that how you say his name? Kellen or Bob, can you say something? I don't know if we've got the,
Should be okay.
Oh.
Can you hear them? Are they talking?
Nope.
They are muted, though.
Everybody's muted right now.
yeah, you gotta
Somebody
unmute.
say hi.
Hello, Bob, can you say hi? Bob or Kellen?
Just curious, I mean, do we have to continue with kind of these hybrid meetings with Zoom coming in and all that, or?
Yeah, I think they should come in, at least one
I
representative.
like to see people in person, to be honest.
That's how I feel.
I mean, we got, a lot of folks came in here tonight, so.
This isn't this isn't a huge project. One person could represent this. You know,
Yeah, we could, let's,
in my opinion.
is that
Yeah,
you,
we
David,
needed
is
it.
that you doing that, or is that? That's
That's
you?
Peter.
That's Peter, okay.
I mean, it was helpful when we had COVID, but
Yeah.
we're past that now.
We're past it.
No.
Are we required to do this?
Not
Zoom?
required to do Zoom, no.
No,
I think we should do away with it.
I think we should do away with it.
I think I'm hearing,
It's not gonna work.
not tonight.
Not
It should
tonight.
still be broadcast.
They're
but
gonna have to be
Yeah,
I don't think we should
continued.
allow
That's
interaction.
That's different, yeah, that's different. So, is anyone online, Bob or Kellen, can you unmute? Have we tried to unmute them?
Bob is not muted. So
Bob,
he's,
you don't, Bob Hartzell, you look like you're not muted.
but he's not hearing.
He's not muted, but I'm not. Is Kellen talking? Kellen, can you say something for us?
Yeah,
It's not working right. I'm really sorry, gentlemen.
He is talking, I think.
I can just barely, is it coming out of your computer? Is that what we're hearing?
No, it's coming from up there.
That's not right.
and this,
Lip reader.
I got one more thing I can try.
Sign.
Do you guys want to, do you have another item you can do? I apologize.
Warren,
I-
coolest update.
well,
Uh,
yeah,
That's simple.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah,
You have one more thing you can do?
I've got one more thing I can try.
right.
I'm not super hopeful, but I'll
right.
give it a go.
All right.
Okay,
I
well, and the
apologize.
other thing is, I think on this particular one, we got some stuff from them late today, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know it's pretty straightforward, but in theory, we were making the case that we weren't going to be accepting last minute.
Right, and I did just want to get the responses to some comments that DPW
Okay,
had had.
all right, let's shift to Coolis for a few minutes and then come back to this if we can. And we may have to just continue this if we can't get, I don't really want to have a whole lot of discussion if they can't participate and be part of that. So, relative to Coolis, so we had voted at our last meeting, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever our last meeting was, to accept the responsibility for the CR and overseeing the site, all the Coolis property. And then last week, I think it was last week at the select board meeting, Mike Raisbeck made the presentation of the task force to the select board. And they made the point that they were not voting one way or another on any of the recommendations, and that we would be looking at those recommendations within conservation and trying to decide how we want to make our plans going forward. So I think, have you guys all seen those recommendations? Did we get them sent?
I've seen them.
And they've been available
I
and
don't
out
think
there,
I was
but
sent a copy of the report.
All right, I'll make sure we get copies of the recommendations from the task force to everyone. In addition, besides the task force, there was a separate, I'll call it a splinter group that was doing some site work. And they've got a list of things that they're trying to do, and they've been instructed to work with us on anything they do on that site going forward, for let's just call it maintenance at the moment, maintenance.
That's a
and-
task
and-
force?
There's the task force, which their charter was to create a list of recommendations for uses of the site. As I'm gonna call it a splinter group of that task force, and there were some other people brought in that just did some, they started cutting trails and, marking trails.
Is that
and doing
Friends of
some-
Coolest Farm?
Well,
like
that's
that?
a Facebook group.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
but
Facebook group, but there's I think it's a maintenance or site maintenance or.
So we need to get a handle on who's,
Yeah, and there's a guy.
doing
John-
work.
John Ray, who was on both the workforce and the task, the recommendation force. And I think he might have been here tonight, but he had conflicts or something, and he might have wanted to talk about some of the things that they had open. But we'll have to schedule him for a future meeting and have him come in and talk to us.
Yeah,
Just seems to me he's not available till late in June or something like that. I had a number of emails. Anything else, Peter?
Yeah, if I could just add, John was on the Coolest Task Force, and he now holds the title of Chief of Trail Maintenance, or something to that effect. And I've had a chance to talk quite a bit with John, and he's asking to meet with us just to combine our interest in, what he's been asked to do over the summer.
Okay. And John, yeah?
Agricultural meeting. As far as the Ag Commission goes, we'd like to try to work with conservation and hold the two agricultural pieces of land separate, because they are two separate pieces of land. Okay? And have it be controlled by the Ag Commission. It's gonna be hayed and farmed. That's all it's gonna be. There's no trails, it's gonna be, can't have people walking around your pumpkin field, because they'll be just taking your pumpkins. So we wanna try to keep it with the two boards. That's what was proposed by the Ag Commission.
Okay, we'll
So-
look at that, but
Carl, right now, is it in our control? Has it been voted to?
it wasn't really voted, it was just sort of stated in the select board meeting that it would be under the responsibility of the Conservation Commission to do the CR and to oversee the property and come up with, and make final decisions with the select board on what we end up doing. We all know there's the new house, wildlife, and there's trails, and there's a lot of other things that have been brought up. But I think the first thing would be to get the copy of the presentation. And in fact, we could probably ask Mike Raisbeck to come in as well and present to us on that, on what they did. Make sense?
Yeah, I think we need to get everybody who's involved
Yep.
to,
Yeah, all in a room together.
Yeah.
all in the room together. If we're gonna have some say in it, bring everybody together, so we're all working on the same plan.
Yep.
And it's not everybody's whim or what they wanna do.
Totally agree with that.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, just a comment, there is a lot of active plans and work going on the trails. And the only time-critical thing occurs to me is we might want to make it clear what activities out there going forward are supposed to come before this commission under the Wetland Protection Act and our bylaws. For example, there's talk about a walkway to the vernal pool. The conservation value is, the 100-foot buffer.
Yep.
I don't know what the right answer is. There's probably a few things we might want to
Right.
send the
Right.
word out.
Okay.
Please work with us. We'll certainly want to see things get done. I'm not proposing we try.
No, a lot of people have done a lot of nice work
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
come a long way in a short time.
And John's all in on that idea when I talked to him last.
John Ray.
John Ray, right.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Yeah, so
Okay.
should be easy.
All right, how are we doing? If we don't have this resolved, I think we need to table this item.
Is this the only one that's on Zoom that we need?
Don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the only one where the applicant's on Zoom.
Okay.
So Kellen and Bob, let's give it one more chance.
I've done all my tricks, so if this doesn't work, not much else I
Still
can
a
try.
lot of feedback.
Yeah, Kellen
It's even louder now.
or Bob? Yeah, we're not hearing you. Yeah, it's,
Okay.
we
I
can tell you're
apologize.
talking, but we can't really hear you, so we're gonna have to continue this, this hearing until the next meeting, and I think we're gonna recommend that you have somebody come in, and let's not trust it to Zoom. We may be moving on from Zoom in our meetings, from what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners. So I really apologize, we're having this technical difficulty. We haven't had trouble like this in the past, but,
I'm pretty sure we have a piece of equipment that's failed. The way it's acting is not, I've tried all the settings, I've done everything I can, so I think
okay,
something's broken.
appreciate it, Pete.
All right, sorry about that.
All right, so, not if you agree, or if you understand, you don't have to agree, but you have to understand. We just can't have we can't have the hearing if we can't communicate. So, we're gonna have to continue until, I think we'll continue, the next meeting is
June
June 11th.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we continue the 15 Concord Road hearing until our next meeting of June 11th, 2024.
Motion from Chris,
Second.
second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Sorry, I really apologize, technical difficulties, but we'll have to get you next time.
Are they hearing us?
Can you hear us?
Okay. Sounds
I
like
think
you
he said
can.
I can hear something, yeah.
Okay.
Portion.
Yeah, so, next time,
Here, should I write a note that says continued?
I like that.
Here, hold on.
Send a
Hold
representative.
up a big sign.
So I'm just gonna end the meeting, I assume.
Here,
yeah,
Yeah.
continued.
I think they've got it.
Yeah, sorry,
But keep that note, we might need it again.
yeah,
we go to smoke signals next.
all right. So, yeah, I think we're gonna discontinue the meeting, the Zoom call. Sorry. Okay, well, that was not much fun. I'm sorry that it happened, but that's the way it is. So let's move on. Notice of intent, so this one's 93 Brick Kiln Road. This is continued from, looks like April 23rd. We were reviewing the special draft conditions and anything, how are we starting this one off?
Well, Chris let us know earlier that the stormwater system, management system is being redesigned, but beyond that, I haven't heard anything from the applicant. Not an update, not a request for a continuance.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. Thank you, David. I didn't realize that Christine hadn't kind of communicated with the commission. The last time we were here, we were reviewing draft conditions and kind of continued it out. Planning board had raised some concerns or questions about stormwater management and our hydro-geo study that was done with some PFAS levels that fell outside of the zone 2. In order to move the planning board process along, we agreed to consolidate one of the underground systems that was there was concern about. Do you happen to have the plan handy, David?
Do I have a what?
The plan handy?
The-
I can
the mo-
just.
The most recent revision?
Yeah, the most recent
Okay,
one. We
yeah.
haven't issued anything. I guess what I'd like to do is just very quickly describe what we're revising, which is just a very simple consolidation of two stormwater systems. So,
So,
any of the grading sheets would be fine, so 4 or
Grading sheets.
5. Yeah, this will work. So the concern was with respect to the underground system located right here. There was a monitoring well that had some low levels of PFAS in it that was hydrologically down gradient, so the concern was migration of any of the PFAS within the soil, into essentially the wetlands and then out to the Concord River. So by removing this system, we're essentially going to be putting all the stormwater back behind the building. So our revision is going to eliminate this larger system and put it into the system and back. Now, in terms of design, it's a redesign, but it's very, very minimal. Essentially, we're just adding volumes. So say there was 50 chambers in that system, we're going to be adding that into the system at the rear. We had confirmed with the planning board that they did not feel that this had to go back out to peer review. My hope is the commission feels the same way. We'll be issuing that revised plan set this week, so likely tomorrow or tomorrow's what, Wednesday, Thursday, to the planning board so that they can review it. And as Chris had indicated, we're looking for closing of the public hearing and hopefully an issuance of site plan and special permits on the 12th. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. But again, with everything really resolved at this point and this simple consolidation happening, it would be our goal to kind of mirror what we have going on with the planning board and hopefully have the commission be able to close out this process as well. And like I said, that simple consolidation will be a revised plan and HydroCAD calculations. It'll be submitted in the next day or two. And outside of that, there's no additional changes on the site.
So the planning board has kept the hearing open pending
They have.
receipt of that plan,
Correct.
so I
Yeah,
think it
so
makes sense. the
So I
commission
would,
does-
I would recommend we kind of keep
Same
it
thing.
open.
Yep.
But if there are any concerns, if we could just have those identified this evening, so we can address those at the same time.
I mean, there's nothing that really jumps out at me. I'd like to actually see the plan.
Yeah,
though,
exactly.
And I would have to know how this fits in with construction of the turtle nesting management area.
Yeah, so no impact to that. We were very, very sensitive to the fact that we're keeping everything exactly the same that was discussed. That's all outside of the parking lot. The stormwater falls under the Phase 2 parking lot or the infiltration basin. So it doesn't have any effect to any of those potential conditions and everything that has been discussed to date.
Okay, questions for the applicant?
I just said, we had this letter that was addressed to the Community Development Director back on May 3rd, and it was from Beta, basically saying that Beta recommends a proposed stormwater management system be altered to avoid infiltration in areas where dissolved PFAS have been identified or likely to be present. Have there been modifications since this May 3rd letter?
No, the modification is what I just described. So it's just moving the system that's located to the plan right of the building to behind the building, kind of absolves any of those concerns.
So I guess I just would like to be sure that Beta, is reviewed the latest plans and is okay with the
Beta-
revised plans and is no longer concerned about some sort of a negative PFAS.
So just to expand on that a little bit,
Yeah.
there was no consensus between our LSP and Beta. This was a discussion that was somewhat outside of that to resolve the concern, and this is not going back to Beta for review.
Why not?
I mean, I guess personally, just speaking as one commissioner, I have a letter from Beta raising, to my mind, some serious concerns about possible PFAS.
Let me make sure I understand, though. That letter is what your redesign is addressing.
Correct, and discussed during the meeting last week with the planning board with Beta present and our LSP present.
So what you're saying is you're responding to the peer review's recommendation or their finding, however you want to word it, and this is your response, but then you're saying, but you don't want to have that be reviewed.
So it's not that we don't want it, it's that it's not part of the process right now. This was discussed at length with the planning board, and no additional peer reviews are part of the remaining process.
So,
I think what I'm
comment,
hearing,
David?
I think what I'm hearing Brian say is that what the proposed change that is being made right now was made at the last planning board hearing with Beta present.
Correct.
And Beta concurred that this change in
Oh, I see.
location
Yeah,
is
so we're-
consistent with what they recommended.
I see.
in
I
the
guess to
letter.
add a little more detail to it, by moving the system from the right side of the building to behind the building, we're now moving our point of discharge hydrologically down gradient of the well that had PFAS in
Okay.
it. So none of that infiltration, none of that migration of groundwater is going in that area of monitoring well one.
Okay.
I mean, I could certainly send an email to Rob Smith, asking for his concurrence on that.
So why don't
Well-
we do it that way, have that done as well as we get to see the new plan in the meantime, which will give us, the ability to see what the change is. It sounds like it's in the right direction.
There's a huge nuance here that, I'm reading it. Beta recommended the system be designed to avoid infiltrating where PFAS was found, dissolved PFAS. So presumably that's what happened. But Beta report also says clearly that there has not been enough testing to identify where the PFAS is. So the question I have is the new stormwater system also located in an area of dissolved PFAS? Because what Beta is saying is if it is located in an area of increased PFAS, the infiltration is going to increase what gets discharged to the drinking water.
I can speak to that.
Yeah, so I think that's the technical nuance here.
So I can speak to that a little bit. A total of 5 monitoring wells were put in. PFAS, I believe, was found in 2 of them, all below reportable concentrations. Monitoring well 1 was on that right side of the building, and the rest of them kind of horseshoed around the entirety of the property. So the comment about not having enough testing is the distance between monitoring well 1 on the right-hand side and monitoring well 2 was about 150 feet. And it wasn't enough to provide a hydraulic gradient, like calculating exactly where the groundwater level was at and the direction that it flowed. We're basically saying, all right, if you don't think we have enough data there and you have some kind of concern about monitoring well 1, we're just going to move it into an area that has sufficient testing that is hydraulically down gradient from the PFAS wells. So that's why we're moving it back behind the building. So the only concern on the side, on the site was on that right-hand side by monitoring well 1, which happened to be basically in the location of this underground system.
Yeah, so Chris, to your point, I mean, this sounds like a great solution. I personally want to hear from our peer reviewer, and if he said that clearly at the planning board meeting and it's in the minutes, let's not repeat what they went through. But if it wasn't clear that our expert, our peer reviewer, said clearly, yeah, that resolves the issues. And remember, there's 2 issues. One is, well, let's not get into the bug dust, but that's just a simple solution, is for us either to hear from Rob directly,
Okay.
or if it's in the minutes or on the PB recording, his opinion, that's good too.
Well, we can ask.
Yeah.
We can ask him.
John?
When he comes back in, I want to see a plan.
Right.
We all discussed it at the work session. We want to see a 1-page plan of what we're going to be looking at.
In fact, if we get a plan earlier, you can probably go see David, next week and see it in his office. 'Cause I
They
think
used
you
to
can
bring
get
plans
a
into us.
D-size or a larger.
You're talking about a full-scale
No,
plan,
no,
right, John?
I'm talking about a simple,
11 by 17?
a simple plan.
Okay.
I have this to go by. I've had this since day 1,
Yep.
okay? This project has been changed, and changed. Other people had plans, not us. I would like to see the plan.
But do you want it 11 by 17 or?
Just a
full-
simple, this, right here.
Yeah.
Yes, 11 by 17.
I mean, it's common. People come in, and they give you a set of plans.
Okay. All right.
We discussed it, and I thought we
Yeah, no, I think we're
we're
on the
gonna
right
be
track.
adamant about, if you
Right.
don't have your plan in front of us,
Well, as I said, I didn't even know that a new plan was being,
correct. We can't vote on something we can't
Yeah,
see
yeah,
in front
yeah,
of us.
so that's the point, is we're.
That's what I'm
we'll-
trying to
we'll
say.
Get this new plan, we'll get this in front of us, we'll get a confirmation from the peer reviewer, and we'll see you in,
Will we have all the other conditions for, based on the new plan, so we can vote on this at the next meeting?
Yeah,
it
let's
should
wrap
be,
it up.
I mean, it should be as simple as just referencing a new plan in the plan title line.
right.
Okay.
Should be, unless,
So Brian, can you make sure we have hard copies to look
Absolutely.
at, please?
Yep.
And so the draft permit conditions you put out now like a month ago is still what we're
I
working
don't,
from?
I don't see why they should change, and Brian is saying the same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Okay.
If I, when I see the plan, if I have any questions, I'll ask Brian.
Okay,
We
So-
all saw how technology worked tonight. It didn't work. He's talking,
Right.
okay.
okay? Set of plans, we'll look at it, we'll vote.
So I think that's
Old
the
school.
plan.
Sounds good.
So Brian,
Old
it's
school.
It's June.
Not a full set.
June 11th is the next meeting, which is the night before the planning board meeting, so I think that's the plan. So I will take a motion to continue this hearing from tonight until June 11th.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this meeting, hearing with respect to 93 Brick Hill Road until the next Conservation Commission meeting on June 11, 2024.
And
Motion
we're
from
looking
Chris.
for a letter or an email from Beta, and also some hard copy plans for us to look at, and we'll have the special order conditions ready to go.
That we've got.
Well, I think the commission has already reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that, so we're all
So-
set there. Yeah.
I want to be in a position to vote on this
Yep.
next time.
Yep, I think we should be.
Yes.
Okay, motion from Chris, second from John, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian, thanks for jumping in.
Happy
I don't think you had it on your radar. Okay. All right. But don't go too far. Next on the list is notice of intent continued also. This is 10 Hildreth Street, and so let me just start by saying we have received a lot of communications from residents. I won't go through them in detail, but we have 7 different communications at least that I've kept track of since, well, let's just say in May. And the general tone of the, I'm just trying to make sure that everyone is aware we're getting a lot of input from our fellow citizens of Chelmsford. The main concerns are about vernal pool protection, the tree habitat, the tree canopy, the upland habitat. That's the main area of issues of concern, and we've got lots of very really well-written documentation. So that's as a precursor.
Thank you. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. So very quickly, before I turn it over to David Cowell, our senior wetland scientist, can we get copies of all of those abutter concerns and letters?
Sure.
I don't believe that we've been provided any of that. So the last time we were before you, we were tasked with identifying habitat surrounding the vernal pool, and David went out and did that, and I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let Dave kind of discuss exactly what they did.
Thank you, Brian. For the record, David Cowell, Senior Wetland Scientist with Hancock Associates. Again, I haven't seen those letters. Hopefully, some of the conversations that we have tonight will address some of those, and if there's ongoing comments regarding tree protection and vernal pools, happy to address those. Since our last meeting, I did have opportunity to go out. David and I were able to flag on the ground, I believe, a more accurate depiction of forested upland habitat. With our initial submittal, we had estimated based on interpretation of aerial tree cover.
So if I can just
Yep, please do.
reference the plan quickly. So that upland habitat is, you see these little symbols here, they look like short arrows pointing downward. So that's the existing upland habitat that we mapped in the field. So I think that should be fairly clear what that is. And then this this red line here, which is the vernal pool buffer zone, that I mean, let's just say for the sake of discussion right now, that was the original upland habitat, and would be assuming this was a pristine area and all of the upland habitat was intact around the vernal pool. So really, the only areas where that are not upland habitat within 100 feet are this that I've outlined here in the light blue and the dark blue. So,
Sure. Thanks, David.
go ahead.
I would make a soft counter argument that the light blue is still habitat. It's not forested upland, it's forested wetland. But we had talked about the species needs, that
Right.
amblystomatid salamanders require forested upland, wood frogs require forested wetland. But the dark blue polygon, while David and I were out there, we actually occurred to us that there was a second potential vernal pool out there providing additional breeding habitat. It's not overwintering habitat, but that blue polygon is a second potential vernal pool providing breeding habitat. So the breeding habitat's actually a bit more than just the single vernal pool that we had done in the first place. So we...
Question,
go ahead,
I'm
please.
sorry. David, on that map, I don't believe I've seen that, or if I did, if you sent it and I missed it. Where is the current identified vernal pool?
Yeah, we got this Friday, right?
Yes, yes. So
I'm
that's
sorry, I didn't get to it.
And John, to your point earlier, forgive me, I 11 by 17s handouts. You guys would have something in front of you.
Exactly.
So, yep. So moving forward, anytime we submit revised plans, I'll come in with 11 by 17 handouts. So it's at front of you. So again, we don't expect the hearing to close tonight. We want to introduce this and talk about it. If you need additional time to review this, I think we're afforded that. So to your question of what is the vernal pool habitat, for the purposes of our quantitative analysis for our impacts, we've qualified that the red, David has the polygon. At that light blue connection there's like a wetland hydrologic connection between the two potential vernal pools, and then there's a second vernal pool.
but there's clearly two
Potential.
depressions.
Yep. Right. And that hydrologic area, it just, there's water in there. It's obviously where they're two connected, but it doesn't retain enough surface water to be considered open water breeding habitat. It's just shallow of water at that point. So, all right, in the study, so we did the quantitative analysis we did. We looked at the 100-foot buffer zone surrounding the potential vernal pool that we're working within 100 feet of. The total surface area of that is about 83,000 square feet is the 100-foot buffer zone. So after David and I were able to delineate forested upland habitat within that, we discovered that there was 40,000 square feet and change. What that does is that represents that of the 100-foot buffer zone, 48.7 of the 100-foot buffer zone, percent of the 100-foot buffer zone is suitable habitat. One of the points I just want to point out is that most of the percentage that is not forested habitat is within it's within Hildreth Street itself, where the 100-foot buffer zone projects into the public roadway, and in the home that was off property as it pertains to where their limits of lawn and driveway are in proximity. So with that in mind, we went back to the drawing board and we looked at our design. And we're making, in this quantitative analysis, we're making efforts to avoid, minimize, and mitigate to the maximum extent practical. So in what we had, in terms of avoidance, I just want to go through systematically, avoidance, minimization, and mitigation. In avoidance, we're kind of confined to the footprint that we're in now with this 5-lot division, and that has a multitude of factors leading to it. It has to do with where we have roadway frontage, we have a clustered lot that's centered over existing altered development. It's where we have access to our utility tie-ins. It's also, the configurement of these lots is also driven by zoning ordinance, building code. We still need to have Title V septic systems inside these lots. Based on the plan that has been in front of you, the plan that you guys have been reviewing to date, we had a total of 8,000 square feet of proposed footprint within the 100-foot buffer zone, and that would result in a take of 31 trees, and that would reduce the available forested habitat by 9.9%, and that would reduce forested habitat from 48.7 as it exists now to 38.8% coverage. Now we get into minimization. So what we've done since the plans that you guys have had in front of you all along, we actually have moved our limit of work line northward as far as we can and still remain a viable project. With that reduction, we've reduced from, again, I said we had 8,000 square feet plus proposed. We've got that down to 3,300 square feet. And with this reduced impact, it would be, instead of a 10% reduction, it would be a 4% reduction. And instead of taking 31 trees, we're proposing to take 7 trees. So we've made every effort to minimize the associated impact, to reduce that impact. And then that leads us to mitigation. One of the things that I pointed out to David while we were out there is in the forested habitat, not all of the forested habitat is ideal habitat. There's an area in the forested habitat that's quite degraded. It doesn't have as much tree cover as the rest of the forested habitat does. It's really poor nesting habitat as it pertains to ground cover. It's invasive species. The understory in this area is all honeysuckles, Asiatic bittersweet, pretty degraded species. So as mitigation, what we propose to do, and this is just under 3,000 square feet of surface areas, that we would do a vernal pool habitat restoration enhancement plan, where we would go in there, we would remove the invasive species from the understory, the honeysuckles and any of the woody invasive vegetation. We would plant, I think our planting plan had, there was a quantity of trees. We're proposing to plant 30 trees. This is a surface area of 2,300 square feet. And what we do is we would plant trees in there to supplement that tree cover, the root structure, to afford better nesting habitat or overwintering habitat for these species. We would, there'd be a native seed mix that we would broadcast onto the ground. And we would put, if we were to take the trees where we're taking them, we could cut logs out of those trees and broadcast them into the restoration area to increase wooded, forested debris in ground cover for those species. So that's where we stand now. That is the results of our quantitative analysis, and that is the results of our efforts to further avoid, minimize, and mitigate for impacts.
Okay, David, do you want to?
Sure.
You were out there with David.
Yep.
David.
So Dave, just for the sake of clarification, because some people may still have this question.
Yep.
83,000 square feet that you referred to in your evaluation is the area within this red line, this outer red line,
Yes.
Exclusive of these areas.
That's correct.
That's the 83,000 square feet. Okay, and
But I'm sorry, those areas are included in the 80, but they're not included as habitat. That's the total 100-foot circumference around the.
right, but if we're talking about upland habitat, these areas should not, well, you feel the light blue should be, but.
Oh, no, but we did omit those from
Oh, okay,
the.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so the light blue and dark blue areas were omitted to arrive at that 83,000, does not
No,
include those.
the 83,000 is the total, but the surface area of that was deducted from the total 40,000 square feet of available forested habitat. So
Okay.
that's where the total 100-foot surface area is what it is. It's 83,000 square feet. But for available forested habitat, yes, those areas were not counted.
Okay, so I'd like to know what the 83,000 or the total buffer zone is minus the area of these two. Are the light blue and dark blue areas included in your evaluation? Did you give those numbers?
No, I didn't do those separately. When I sent you three plans. The first was the initial one that I submitted, and that was based off of the tree interpretation off of the aerial. You and I went out, we field delineated. I sent you a revision 2. When I sent you revision 2, it occurred to me when I was doing, you asked me some questions to button up the plan with the shading.
Yeah.
And when you had asked me, that's when it occurred to me that my CAD drawer had mistakenly kept those in there. So with Rev 3, the revision that you guys have in front of you now, that area has been deducted from the available forested.
It's been deducted from the 43,398.
Or, well, previously that we reported that was like 53,000, and that's come down with the deduction. It was about
To the
15,000
43.
square feet for that surface area.
Sorry, what's that, Carl?
You deducted it from the 53 to get to the 43.
Yeah, what I'm reporting now is that there's 40,000 square feet of available forested overwintering habitat in that 100-foot buffer zone, and that excludes the blue polygons and any of the surface area that
Okay, so
by our
if you-
means determined.
So if you just deduct the light blue, the sum of the light blue and dark blue areas from the 83,000, then you'll get the total amount of the original upland habitat. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't know that that's accurate. How, I just try to explain your logic or what.
Well.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand where we're, yeah,
Okay,
it's leading.
because, and I probably should have said a little bit more about this at the beginning, is that the bylaw regulations allow, well, the bylaw and the regulations allow the commission to take into account a cumulative loss.
Right.
So what I'm trying to get at is we start out with what was the original, if there's no development, no alteration of any of the upland habitat within 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was that, to try and get down to not only the existing from that loss, but also then to the additional cumulative loss proposed by, the development.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I should,
So,
go ahead, Brian. Yeah, please.
So I think one of the nuances here that we do need to recognize that this habitat was created by roadway drainage. So by taking that 83,000 square feet, you're including Hildreth Street, you're including Plum Street, you're including abutting parcels across the street. Is that what we're driving at?
Well, I can just tell you my personal opinion is that my personal interpretation of the bylaw and the regulation says yes, that the commission is allowed to take that into consideration in determining cumulative loss. Obviously, that's up for the commission to decide.
So I think there's a fine line there because this resource area potentially wasn't even a resource area without that roadway. So that was never habitat to begin with. I guess what is the end goal of the numbers exercise?
Well, it's trying to get a sense of, or as quantitatively as possible, the cumulative loss. Now, yeah, maybe the vernal pool wasn't always there, and maybe after it was formed, that the road was already there. Maybe there was already some development. So, but I think that burden of proof is really on the applicant to do that. I think the presumption, the commission's presumption should be, is that vernal pool existed, and at some point in the past, the buffer zone was entirely upland forest, exclusive of the light blue and dark blue areas. Mm-hmm. So if you want to rebut that, I think, again, the burden of proof is on you.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
So I guess then what we've done, and happy to run those numbers, we can subtract out exclusively wetland areas from the 83,000 to give you a baseline number, and then what we're representing as habitat today and what we are proposing for habitat. Now, the question I guess I have is, in relation to the habitat modification that we're doing or we're proposing now, and whatever this potential cumulative loss is. I mean, this is the conversation that we had regarding tree clearing on the site previously, and we were willing to consider any and all forms of mitigation specific to this vernal pool and to that tree clearing. So if the commission has a desire to create or influence our restoration kind of enhancement plan, you know, we're open to that. We just need to understand what that concern is.
Okay, you know, certainly can talk about that. I guess just, you know, the thing I would say immediately, but I think we probably should put that off to a little bit later, is that you cannot do a like-kind replication in this case of the upland vernal pool habitat. I mean, these are at the very least decades-old trees, not going to be able to replace those. So if you know, I think that's an issue that the commission has to take into consideration, that it's not practical to do a like-kind replication of the existing habitat. But anyway, I want to put that off to a later discussion. The second numbers, set of numbers or additional numbers that I would like to see is actually maybe getting a little bit more to the point we just discussed. Was what I would like to see is the existing upland habitat on the site, on the subject property. And also look at the original upland habitat. So look at, assuming that this was all upland habitat in the buffer zone. So look at that number, the total amount of existing upland habitat within the buffer zone. Look at the existing percentage or the existing fraction of that's existing habitat, and then the further fraction that it will be reduced by the proposed development. So yeah, we can just restrict what's on the property.
To the subject property.
It's ultimately it's up to the commission what they want to do with those numbers, but at least we'll have them. We'll have that information.
Sure.
So see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can I just point out a few nuances in this exercise? With the I'm sorry, I want to point to the plan. In relation to so the red polygon is the 100-foot buffer zone. That's the 83,000 square feet. Most of the absence of habitat is occurring here as it occurs within the Hildreth right-of-way and off property to the right. So of course we're not going to have habitat here. It's Hildreth Street. It's off property. It's nothing our property owners could have done. And then secondarily, a lot of the other open habitat is down here within a polygon that again is off property and associated with the limits of driveway on an abutting residence. So what we could calculate the total forested habitat on property and then give you the beta on what the reduction would be.
I think we need both sets of numbers, both off-site and on-site. Again, ultimately, it's what the commission wants to do with it. I think it will ultimately come down, what is the interpretation of cumulative loss? Is it restricted just to the subject property? Or can the commission take into account off-site loss? And I don't know the answer to that question right now. I can tell you how I personally have interpreted it.
Right. Maybe the members of the commission would like to opine on how they want these numbers reported.
Comments from?
At this point, I'd support what our agent's asking for. I think it's going to be helpful data.
Okay. John,
I think the point he brings up, a replication is near impossible of what they want to use, replication. So I don't feel comfortable about that.
Bill?
Have the houses moved since you've redone the,
I don't believe the houses have. Was it limited lawn, Brian? You're the civil
Yeah.
engineer.
So this goes back an iteration. Originally, we had a 6-lot subdivision. We had a lot tucked away in the back, and then that got revised down to 5. Since we went down to 5, we had a subsequent revision that revised the limit of work on lots 5, 4, and 5, which are the ones closest to Hildreth, closest to the vernal pool. What we did is lot 5, which is the house on Hildreth Street or closest to Hildreth Street, that one's on sewer. So we were able to pull that as far up to the right of way as we could, because there is no septic system on lot. And you can see, sorry, too much paper. You can see kind of in this area here where we did an inventory of trees, of large caliber trees. So this being lot 5 and this being lot 4. On lot 5, we had significantly more tree clearing proposed previously, and we were able to tighten up our limit of work line and go down to just the tree clearing that you see with the red axes. On this one, we were able to make smaller tweaks and move the limit of work line north slightly to eliminate some of the tree clearing, but we still have 4 trees on this lot that need to be cleared. So we have gone through the exercise of looking at the 2 lots in closest proximity to the vernal pools to limit our impacts, to do everything that we can to tighten up grading, minimize yard behind these houses, and to move them physically as close to the proposed roadway as we could.
But from what was staked out the day we did a site walk,
That was,
the
from what
house-
was staked out when we did the site walk, that was the original before we moved the line.
before you moved the limit of work, but the houses haven't moved. The houses are where they are,
The
right?
houses did move on lot 5 and lot 5 significantly, lot 4 slightly.
Since we've looked at those stakes out there, they've moved?
Since you were out in the field, correct.
And from the limit of work line, how far is the closest point of the house?
20 feet. Less than 20 feet. So we have, can we shift to the design plan, Dave? Sheet 5 would work, that's the grading.
Of the most recent?
Of the most recent
'Cause
plan set.
I don't know if you gave me a plan showing the houses moved, but you can
It
tell
was
me.
part of the last full revision.
The April 19th revision, or the submission?
4/11 is the last date.
Okay. And what sheet did you say that was?
Julie wants them too. John? Yeah. I'm giving you things away.
Are they gummies?
So these are the 2 lots that I'm referencing here. These are the 2 houses. So this is our limit of work line, which is the same as what was shown on that colored sketch. These are the trees that were located. So the limit of work line to the back of the house is, I would say, less than 20 feet. I don't have the exact dimension. Basically, we have decks that are pulled into each side of, or each unit of the building with steps going down, and then there's a little bit of lawn area before you hit the limit of work line. Here, this house was in parallel with lot 4 to kind of maintain the streetscape as you come in. We just took that up as close to the right of way as we could and moved the limit of work line accordingly to try to save as much of the vegetation in this area as possible.
So how far is the limit of work line from the vernal pool? That's,
So this is
What
your
I'm-
20, this is your 25, this is your 30, this is your 50. So that on lot 5 is probably halfway, 75 feet. And then on lot 4, this is the 50, that's probably 40, 45 feet.
To the house?
To the house, well, to the house, it's beyond 50, obviously.
20 more. something.
So house on lot 5 is roughly 50 feet from the vernal pool? The house?
Yep, 50 feet and then 75 on lot 4.
Okay.
But of course, the lawn is approaching closer than that.
Right.
And that was the 40 to 40.
Yeah, and so it's
Right.
really, it's really the loss of the habitat that's the
Right.
the crucial issue.
Right. And by the way, just, if I could just comment, I went back to the map that was sent out on Friday, and it's not the same as what's on the screen. I mean, it looks similar, but there's some differences. And it would really help me, I mean, it would help you guys, help us, help you, if these drawings showed where the houses were. I mean, that's, you know, I don't know if that's, let me just say, that's a real problem, because between the different drawings, to John's point, between the different drawings, the last-minute submittals, you know, the challenges in finding the latest drawing, and then, of course, without showing the houses on some of these drawings, it makes it even harder for us, and that's just gonna drag this hearing out. So that would be helpful. I don't know what we could do to fix that, but it's getting a little bit complicated for a volunteer to keep track of all these different drawings and different changes.
Okay, and
I just
that's
want to
fine.
say that, it's important.
Sure, Brian will do that, but again, I think the most important point to focus on is the loss of upland habitat.
Well, that's the point. I'm trying to figure that out. And then let me just ask one more quick question. I mean, I appreciate what y'all are trying to do, by the way. I think that's the name of the game. Can you mitigate the impact? But a couple of quick questions. I'm interested in more information on the trees, you know, new ones versus old ones, and the total habitat value, and an assessment of an expert, whether that's more or less comparable. But the second thing is, I'm really confused over a major topic. This calculation that you guys were presenting, I read what you wrote before the meeting, this 50%, 60%, you know, the plan only reduces by whatever. But isn't it true that there were alterations in the past on this property within the 100-foot buffer?
Yeah. You can
And
see-
isn't it true
Yes.
that any changes, any land disturbance within that 100-foot buffer that may have occurred previous owners, isn't it true? Any disturbance within that 100-foot is, I'll use the word, not in compliance with the wetland bylaw? So we have to, my attitude is, we have to look at what this property looked like, assuming when you guys started your design work, the thing was in compliance. And it's not. So you can't say half of that 100-foot buffer is gone already, somebody else did that, and now we're just gonna try to replicate part of that 50%. And I'm like, wait a minute, the bylaw's clear, it's 100-foot protected
Well,
zone.
that speaks to the second set of numbers that I just asked.
Yeah, I think that's what you were asking, but I just wanted to,
And again,
I mean,
you know,
am I
we'll get
on the right
numbers
track?
Right, yes, but we'll get the numbers first, then the commission can decide how you want to use them.
okay, well, I just want to be sure
Yep.
everybody, I didn't
Yep.
totally understand that until I really thought it through. And I wasn't even sure if I was right, because the drawings aren't, I'm having trouble with the drawings.
And again, I think it's an outstanding question at this point. Was the alteration of the buffer zone, which again, you can see is pretty substantial, it's basically clear cut.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it's just sand, and
Right.
dirt. Was
And
that
then-
done within recent memory where it should have gotten permission
Right.
of the Conservation Commission?
Right, and that raises
It's an
a-
open question right
Right,
now.
and that raises a question I know we talked about briefly, but I went back and watched our last hearing on the question of trees, and we sort of glossed over it. We have, as a commission, started asking applicants to tell us, or our peer reviewer, what trees were taken down within the buffer zones. And I think we need to go back and look at that, because we're really talking about habitat. And we need to look at the whole picture, not just, we're gonna save a piece of what's left in the 100-foot. And just one more quick comment. Have you guys determined with your analysis, and forgive me if you have, this notion that these vernal pools are only from street runoff? Like, that hasn't been demonstrated, has it? I mean, it may be obvious to an engineer when you're out there, I realize that. But, you know, being right next to the river and, but anyway, that's a moot point, isn't it? It doesn't matter how the vernal pool was formed, it's still a regulated vernal pool.
That's definitely true. But I think
Okay.
whether it came into existence only 50 years ago when paved, Hildreth was already there, and there was already houses.
Doesn't matter.
It may not. It might
Right.
not. Again, that's ultimately for the commission to decide.
And,
I don't think now is the time.
I'm going through everything I was gonna say, so one more thing. That's one reason I'm asking for that is the calculations y'all did said that there is a reduction in water flow, sheet flow over the land into this vernal pool under certain storm conditions. I realize it depends on what level storm we're talking. But that's related to this whole discussion, how are we changing the hydrology? And I hope, I'm throwing that out there because that's gonna become a big question for me. We might as well tackle
Well,
it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think right now we're still discussing the upland habitat issue.
Well, but it's all related, because if you change the water coming into that vernal pool, by definition, you've changed the habitat.
Right, that's a potential direct impact to the vernal pool
Yeah.
itself, but right
I
now.
mean, it's all connected.
I think we're on the discussion about the upland habitat. Yeah, that's all connected to the health of the vernal pool
Okay.
and the critters, I agree. Just a couple of other questions. So why are you still?
Hold on, David, can we, I just want to make sure that we all get a chance. Bill, were you able to finish your questions, or?
No,
Okay, sorry.
that's all right. You've got a vernal pool there with a 100-foot buffer that we're allowed to do what we feel is required, right? Why don't we just go 100 foot from that vernal pool and nothing, no disturbance within that area?
It's a question for the applicant.
Because, and I'll tell you, we're looking at the wetlands part of this issue. You implied before that the driver for this project, the 5-lot subdivision, is the planning board, the Board of Appeals, setbacks, different things like that, where the first thing that should be looked at, are as important as those other things are, is the vernal pool. So what we're doing is, well, we have to have these two duplexes, lot 4 and 5, because that's what the plan requires. That's what this makes this a viable project. That shouldn't have come into play with our committee. We should be looking at the vernal pool, and whether those two duplexes are built or not isn't our problem. It should be, we're looking at the habitat and that 100-foot buffer. Now, whether we want to give up a little bit of that for whatever reason, it looks like a big math problem that, and you do the big math problem, but when you ask whether you move the houses or not, a little bit this way, a little bit that, it really didn't, in the scope of things, if you go out there, the houses are pretty much in the same spot. And to me, they look too close to that vernal pool habitat area. When you build a house, you're not just from that house foundation. You've got to get equipment in there, you've got to dig a foundation, you're going to disturb quite a big area around that house to put those houses in. And at this point, the way it's designed, I can't support this plan. I'll just put it out there. I don't feel that we're looking at the vernal pool and what we're required to do with that and what our bylaws require us to do. I think we're going backwards. We're trying to get a 5 or 6 lot subdivision of duplexes into a place that maybe you can't put them.
Okay, thanks, Bill. John, when you stepped out, we were kind of going around for some questions. Do you have anything you want to?
No, I agree with Bill, but I also agree with what created that vernal pool.
But it's there now.
It's there now, but what created it? That's what I'm going with.
What does it matter?
If there's a pipe from a catch basin that runs out into the property, just put in there back in the 30s, WPA project, whatever.
You could say that about anything, though.
And exactly, and it's happened around town everywhere.
Still
It's
a vernal
happened to
pool,
us.
no matter how it was created.
It's still a vernal pool, no matter how it's created. Okay.
And we're supposed to protect that
Yep,
and the habitats in it.
yep. Yeah, lots 4 and 5 is a reach, I agree, but
Okay. Anything else?
no.
David, you were,
Yeah, just a couple more questions. So why are you still calling it a potential vernal pool? Is that because you feel the species is uncertain, or?
It hasn't been
It's not certified, so it's always a potential until
Okay,
certification.
but the bylaw explicitly says it doesn't have to be certified.
I'm not questioning whether or not the bylaw is applicable, just the fact that it's not certified.
Next question is, so what do you mean by overwintering habitat for the salamanders?
What do you mean by what?
Overwintering habitat?
Sorry.
Forested habitat specifically. I thought-
David, can you?
Oh, sorry, yeah, let me take this down. Forested habitat, so for these species, it's specifically the vernal pool obligate amphibians, ambystomid salamanders and wood frogs. Ambystomid salamanders require forested upland habitat, and wood frogs require forested wetland habitat to overwinter. They go into hibernacula. Their breeding cycle is they go into the vernal pools, they breed in the springtime, and then they depart the vernal pools, and ambystomid salamanders are considered mole salamanders. They burrow underground into duff and detritus and below. Chipmunk burrows is a famous habitat for those
Right.
down around roof litter.
So it's not just
forested.
during the winter that they need the upland habitat. It's all of the year outside of the breeding season when they're in the vernal pools. So
Yeah, it's commonly referred to as overwintering
okay.
hibernacula, but,
So
yeah.
just wanted to be clear
Okay.
about that.
Okay, so it seems to me that we still have a lot of questions. We need to see a plan. We're talking about having a plan that has buildings on it. A lot of questions that are still open here. We talked a little bit about looking at a peer review of this.
Yeah, so I would certainly recommend a peer review. So I think the peer review should actually be divided into two aspects. The first aspect is to verify the numbers, in which case I think we need an engineering peer review. So I think, once we get the second set of numbers, then that I think should go out to an engineering peer review to verify those numbers. And then the second aspect would be a review of the biological aspects, the habitat aspects. We can certainly talk a little bit more about the scope if you want to do that right now, or.
I think we should.
Okay. So I think, just in a very general sense, I think that that second aspect needs to cite scientific references. I think it needs to cite guidance documents from agencies and organizations that have a knowledge and have an interest in the subject. And I think it also should do a review of case law that pertains to protecting upland habitat for vernal pools under town bylaws. I think that's very general. I can certainly write up something that's a little bit more detailed, but I think those are the main points.
And on the engineering, it's really looking at the numbers.
Yeah. So that's pretty simple.
And
straightforward.
they're in agreement on getting the numbers updated.
Yes,
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
So I think it probably would need the digital survey data, but I'll let the peer reviewer.
Okay, so I look to the commission to see what you're thinking about for peer review. John, what do you, start down your end?
I guess we always go to the peer review, so.
Okay. Peter?
I'd like to see the peer reviewer look at the hydrology of the site and tell us what the impact is of losing half the water during heavy rains. Secondly, the cumulative effects question. I'd like an expert to give us some advice. And thirdly, I like your idea of looking at other organizations. I'm thinking in particular, the Army Corps, who does wetland permits, has a whole vernal pool program and a lot of research. And I realize it may not fit our bylaw, but from what I've read, if we are really trying to protect the habitat, it's more than 100 feet. Now, we may be limited by the 100 feet that's in our bylaws, or if it turns out it's, the certification question. But I'd like, when you say some scientific input, I'd like to take advantage of other programs, not some professor that's done some research, but what other entities like the Army Corps that has enforcement responsibility under the Wetland Protection Act, what's their program saying about this kind of situation?
comment on that?
Sure.
So I think, the cumulative loss question, and, I think that's really, really important. In some ways, that's really the heart of the matter. You certainly ask peer reviewer to weigh in on that. But I think ultimately, that's I think, a legal question that have to be probably run by special counsel, just my opinion, so.
So, council that's environmental.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and the hydrology review, we're gonna be asking that question down the road of ourselves.
Yep.
How does the development affect, even without all the houses is gonna be an effect. I mean, I don't know how we do that, but
Okay, I mean.
what's the effect of the current plan, I guess, would be the peer review scope.
Yeah, I think we really should first hear from Brian what the impact to the hydrology is. And I'm pretty sure that DPW has looked at that question to some extent. But
I'm happy to.
Well, excuse me before you start. Yeah, I mean, I read the DPW review, and they just said, yeah, it's reducing the water coming into the vernal pool.
For certain size
Feel
storms.
free to, I'm not trying to take your time, but my question is, does it matter to the critters in the vernal pool? That's
Exactly.
the peer review that
Yes.
we're talking about, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Excuse me.
No, I mean, I'm happy to. So that the hydrology question was brought up prior to our latest revision. So when we went down from 6 to 5 and then 5 to a revised limit of work line, we revised our stormwater calculations to mirror the existing conditions at a 2-year event. So we're not reducing by half volumes or rates. We're meeting what's happening right now, what's shedding off-site to this vernal pool.
Well, I think that's the problem I'm referencing earlier. I very clearly read what I thought was your latest submittal. Maybe I wasn't. And it talked about a almost 50% reduction during, didn't write it down,
Yeah.
a 2-year, a 5-year storm event, whatever, of water, 50%, almost 50% reduction of the water coming into the vernal pool. So my question isn't so much those calculations, although it could be. My question is, what is the impact on the vernal pool of losing water?
Well, I have up on the screen here the definition of vernal pool, and you can see here the last sentence: the boundary of the resource area for vernal pools shall be the mean annual high water line, defining the depression. So the question then is how is the mean annual high water line affected by different size storm events? That's really a question for an engineer to answer. Maybe the answer is if it's anything less than the 2-year storm, or I should say greater than the 2-year storm, does not affect the mean annual high water line. That seems to be logical to me, but I'm not an engineer.
So is that something the peer reviewer can look at?
Sure, but I'd like to hear Brian's.
Right, and we had that discussion when hydrology came up during the hearing, a couple of hearings ago, where when we deal with stormwater in the handbook, we model 2-year, 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year return frequency events. A 100-year event is not going to create a vernal pool. 50-year, 25-year is not. It's going to be your annual events. So 2-year and less would be representative of a hydrologic change, which is why we focused on the 2-year and mirroring existing conditions.
And we
Yeah,
can
but that's
certainly
not-
ask a peer reviewer if that's sound reasoning.
Yeah, but that's not the question. The question is, does it matter to the critters? Our job is to protect the habitat. I'd like to know if this reduction in flow, I mean, I read your calcs. When it rains a lot, there's going to be less water coming into the vernal pool. My question is, does it matter? My question isn't defining the high water mark or whatever. It's, our job is to protect habitat. I want to know if it impacts the vernal pool. Am I off base?
No, but I think in the context of the definition of, the resource area of the vernal pool, I think that's the context you have to look at it in. And so, but anyway,
Right.
Brian has expressed his opinion. We can certainly ask a peer reviewer.
Yeah,
Take a
I
look
think
at
we
it
put
in
that
the
to the peer
context.
review and try to have that as part of the statement of work. So, I want to keep moving.
I'm good.
Yeah. Which way am I going? Bill, you're okay? Mark? Let me rephrase the question, because we've been talking, we're talking about having a peer review for both the biological survey information and for the engineering. So are we okay with doing that, and is the scope that David described reasonable?
I would,
Yeah.
I would like to see what Peter's expressing, not in the world they're creating, but what was existing in the world, to protect that.
And that would be part of the
I'm
assessment.
sorry, Mark, you didn't quite follow that.
Kind of the historic, I think, right?
They're creating an area that's not what's existing. When they get into the buffer zone, I want to, like Peter said, I want to know what's going to happen with the new area. If it's going to create the same kind of,
Okay, yep. Understood.
And I think that scope has to look at past tree cover and changes over time.
Yeah. Which just gets to the
It's
cumulative.
kind of a little bit what Mark's saying, not exactly, but you know,
Okay.
what was it like before, obviously, trees were removed, you can see it on Google Maps, but
Mhm.
what does that mean?
Yep.
Okay.
I
Chris?
mean, I gotta be honest, I mean, I've got a lot of concerns about this project. A lot of concerns about habitat loss. I mean, we can study this more and get a lot more data, but at the end of the day, I mean, maybe my opinion's gonna change, but I'm certainly would agree with my colleague, Mr. Vines. I'm not at all comfortable with supporting this project as it's designed with the houses and the positions they're in now. So, to be
I-
honest about it.
If I could jump in, I mean, I didn't say it clearly as you and Bill did, but I feel the same way. I mean, you've got a 100-foot
Yep.
protected zone that's been damaged in the past and will be damaged further. And given what David said is the replication is, you know, not as easy as it sounds.
do you want to close the meeting? Do you want them to come
I
back?
wasn't looking for that to close the meeting. I thought we were moving towards getting these peer reviews, unless we think we should not.
What are all these questions going to answer for you to make a decision one way or another, or to change how you feel, or what's it going to do for you to get all the information?
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
At the
I mean,
end of
it's
the day.
you're spending a lot of money,
Right.
of somebody else's money, to do something, and you get all this information, you need to do something with it, or it's a waste of time.
Well,
Correct.
I guess I would say that whatever information is obtained through, well, the applicant's study and the peer review can only help but support whatever decision the commission ultimately makes. But I think certainly maybe the applicant should be asked, can you get those two houses out of the buffer zone? I think that's the bottom line question.
Not without eliminating them.
Okay. So you've either,
Yeah, I mean,
so you're saying you don't have a viable project? If,
That's not what I said. I said, you asked if those houses could be removed from the buffer. The only way to remove those houses from the buffer is to reconfigure the project as less than 5 lots.
okay, so is that something the commission cares about?
I think that's where I'm hearing my fellow commissioners, and I'm somewhat pretty close to being in the same, I don't see it, so. It's a good question. Why would we go after all this peer review if even in the best case it comes back, we're still like disturbing the 100 feet of the vernal pool buffer?
Which we asked the question to
Yeah.
them.
So, do you have a thought on this?
So my thought would be, why don't you draft the scope for the peer review? I can confer with my client, the applicant, about, everything that's being discussed. One point of clarity that I would like to have is where in the bylaw it establishes a 100-foot no disturb, because I only understand that there's 25-foot no disturb, 30-foot no impervious, 50-foot no build.
I can answer that.
Yeah, it's there.
So,
Clearly states 100 feet, no disturb.
no, hold on. So, that's reviewing activities. So the commission shall presume that vernal pools, including their buffer zone, perform essential habitat functions. So that's, I mean.
That does not establish a 100-foot
Right, but there's also language about
So this can
avoiding
be all
and-
part of the peer review process, so I guess
well-
what I would request is that David develop that, scope, and then, share it with us, obviously. And like I said, I will be happy to talk to the applicant about this and figure out exactly how we would like to pursue it, given, the concerns that were expressed tonight.
Okay, so if I can summarize where I think we want to go, first, going way back in the meeting, we will send you, David will send you copies of the citizen concerns that we got. There was a number of them, so we'll get those to you. We'll get a statement of work for the peer review, for both peer reviews, and get that to you. You will, in the meantime, go offline and talk with your applicant, with your
Sure.
client.
I got one other item, which I think is significant. There
Yeah.
was an April 10th letter that came in from the Brandon Canada, from the superintendent of Chelmsford Water District,
Right.
raising some significant concerns. So I think we want to get that letter, if it hasn't been, get that in front of the applicant, so they can look at that and be able to address concerns that are raised in that letter.
Didn't that go to them, or?
I think I would.
Yeah,
think
we would have any correspondence from the water department.
Okay,
So
okay,
we're actively working with them, and the Board of Health.
okay.
Their addresses, their concerns have been addressed?
I did not say that, I said,
Yeah.
well,
No, I'm
we're,
just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so
It's
you're
an
working,
ongoing
you're working
A lot of
that,
information going out tonight.
you're working that with them, and we'd like to hear the outcome of that.
Exactly. They were
Well,
definitely.
their letter is clear.
They're very clear that significant
Yeah.
concerns were recommended, and they were recommending that project not proceed unless a viable plan is devised, so.
Okay,
Well, meaning hook up to the sewer,
Yeah,
is what the letter says.
yeah.
It spells out what they're
Yeah.
thinking.
okay, so I think that captured what we're looking for. Did I miss anything? So then I think we're continuing probably to the, we're gonna continue. I don't know if we need, if there's someone in the public that really wants to talk tonight, I'm okay with that. We keep it really short, because we've got a lot still in front of us.
Okay, I just would want to encourage you to make sure that you do get a peer review for this, and just to clarify on what Peter was raising, in the research I've done, I have found nothing that restricts when there's a change in hydrology to only being to the 2-year storm. And this would be applicable because it's within a wetland resource area, the pools. The Wetlands Protection Act would come into play there if there's a hydrology change. You're not just looking at the bylaws, but you're looking at the WPA as well. And the letter I sent you, I was basically quoting from experts to give you quotes so that you would have as far as, so there, like Matt Byrne explains, that hydrology is what he'd consider the most key thing for a vernal pool. And as Peter mentioned, then I had sent from the Army Corps, since when you issue a decision, you are acting on behalf of the Army Corps. So I looked at what the Army Corps has. So Army Corps for New England does have very clear standards for a vernal pool. And one of them spells out that that first 100-foot buffer area, which they call an envelope, is not to be touched. Now, granted, there's been something here in this area, but that doesn't become then a reason to further impede on that. And then in that letter, it included as well saying that basically what starts to happen with development around vernal pools is you end up starting, when you let it chip away, you start to protect this pool area that no longer has the creatures. So you've lost the point in protecting it. And then I agree with David as far as the need for looking at cumulative loss. And if you look at the aerials on the town GIS I'd written before, from the 2011-12 to the 2021, you can see a noticeable difference in this northern area. And at that point, that was already mapped habitat with
Northern
the
area
turtles.
of the site.
Yes,
Yep.
the buffer zone for
Yep.
this. And so they should have come both to the commissioned areas where they changed things and to Heritage in doing that. So I just wanted to make that, and definitely encourage that, yes, you do want to get the peer review and have them give an opinion on the hydrology change, because it does change with all the other storm events. And what I was able to find, that it doesn't constrain it to just the 2-year storm event that you would look at. And then just the other questions, so I was glad to hear that you were looking at peer review, because that will help you going forward.
Okay, thank you, Ruth, appreciate it. So I'll take a motion to continue to our next, Brian, David, I presume the next meeting?
I think so. I move that we continue to June 11th.
So we're continuing the planning board until the 22nd, I believe, which is 2 weeks out, so we can take the continuance to the second meeting in June.
So that'd be June 25th.
I move that we continue to June 25th.
Okay, all right. David, are you,
Well, just as soon as it's seconded, like discussion on that.
second?
Second.
Second from Bill. Discussion?
So does the commission want to review the scope of work before I go out with the RFPs, or is the commission okay with me drafting it and sending it out?
Well, you heard what people's concerns were, and you can always ask us offline if you want clarification.
I
So
feel I have a very good idea.
I'd be happy with you doing it.
Yeah.
I'd rather stay away from offline stuff, but I think you heard a really good discussion of where we were coming from.
Yeah, you heard it. Yeah, you captured it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Gotta be said in the meeting.
Yep, okay. So motion made by Chris, second by Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes. You raised your hand, right?
No.
No, you didn't?
Close the meeting.
Okay. Well,
Thank you for your time.
We passed, we moved it, okay.
You got a point.
Motion
You're
passed,
wasting a
one did not vote. Did you vote no?
They voted no.
Mark, did you
I
vote no?
voted yes for, I can't vote no if I'm, I have to vote yes for against. Isn't that what you said?
All in favor to continue the meeting?
Right, I didn't vote,
Right.
but if you should have asked,
Are you abstaining?
I'm just trying to figure out what your vote is.
that
So
an
that,
abstention?
are you an abstention or a no, you voted against
I
continuing?
voted, I want to see the meeting closed. So
We
how
didn't
would
vote for
you?
that. We didn't vote for that.
But you
Can't close the
voted, you
meeting.
voted for it to continue,
Yeah. So are you abstaining? Are you
I guess, yes, I,
Yes, he's abstaining.
yes.
He's abstained. That's what he
You
said.
abstained, okay.
I heard it clear.
I mean, okay, all right, thank you. Next is 48 Central Square. This is the Town of Chelmsford DPW, and I believe they have asked for a continuance to June 25th. So I'll
Yes.
take a motion for continuance of the 48 Central Square to June 25th.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Chris, second by Bill, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. I'm watching you. Oh, motion passed. All right, so that one's there. Now we have discussion on the request for Conservation Commission comments on the proposed 40B project at 199 and 201 River Neck Road. So Dave, do you want to preface this at all? You want me to talk about it, or?
Well, I think I might have been remiss in not forwarding the plans to the commission.
I sent stuff out to everyone that we got from Paul like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
So I think,
Thank you.
Why are we discussing something that's not even before us yet?
I think the idea is that the select board is going to be looking at this and
our
or the
input?
planning board. I'm not entirely sure. Not planning board, select board? Select board? Sure.
This is for 199.
Yes, 199.
201, yeah.
Virginia
Davis,
Timmons,
the Davis.
28 Lovett Lane. The select board has to provide a comments letter to the state, and that letter will then go in the package or be part of the state package that comes back to the Zoning Board of Appeals to process the application.
Because it's a 40B, right?
Because it's a 40B, it goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we are scheduled for a site visit in June and also for public comment at our June 24th meeting. And then we'll be providing a letter to the state by, I think it's Friday, June 28th, whatever that Friday is. So So
Okay.
the departmental and the commission comments go into the package in support of our June 24th meeting.
Okay, and so you're looking for any commentary from the commission on that site?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Appreciate it.
So Carl, I thought David already wrote a letter with.
No, this is a
This is a different
different
site.
site, so.
Different site, okay, thanks.
On
Yep.
River Neck. It's a
They're
hot-
both
hot
on
area.
River Neck.
River Neck, okay.
This
River
is
Neck,
the
hot area.
Davis property that was going to be a warehouse distribution center.
Mercury
It was
Computer.
Mercury Computer.
Okay.
Whereas the one we did a few weeks ago was, it's just a house on some property with some land in the
Adjacent to the
back.
water district.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, so they're in the same neighborhood, but they're two
Okay.
different properties.
They're both on the edge of, what do we call it, River Meadowbrook
River Meadowbrook.
Wildlife
I mean, I'm
Refuge.
assuming we may have some similar issues. It's a very environmentally sensitive area down there with a lot of
Yeah,
habitat.
we went through a lot here with the Davis property. It's over a year ago now that we went through that, but we had a lot of discussion. We even did a site visit, I think, on the site
Yeah,
as a commission.
That's right.
We went out there, and
Came up with a-
there were a lot of
Illegal
stormwater.
fill and everything else.
But I think, David, you and I talked about this. Is it correct that there is already a current stormwater drainage from that site to our conservation property adjacent? or is-
There is, so I think that certainly should be a primary concern. If the stormwater management system is proposed to be reconfigured, that maybe there needs to be new permission to drain onto the town-owned land, you know, in particular the Conservation Commission land. So that should be, I think that should be something to be looked at very closely. That whether or not the existing permission runs only with this particular
But it's, and
development.
because it's a change of use, then it would trigger that we don't necessarily need to,
It might.
whether it's
Yeah.
currently legal or not, becomes kind of moot. It's kind of, the change of use means we may or may not want to continue with that drainage, okay?
That's my opinion. I mean, ultimately, it's a question for an attorney, but I think that that's really
Yeah.
important. Because if the town isn't going to grant permission to do it, I don't think there's a project there.
Yep.
If the permission is needed.
Yep. So the other notes I had here were that there was as we know from previous discussions, this site, well before the development of the Mercury site, was almost certainly a fully or mostly wetland site that was filled in to some extent in the 80s. And prior to that, it was largely wetlands. So we should be making a note of that in our letter. We should be looking at PFAS, I think, maybe doing some testing for PFAS on the site. It is right on the Zone 1 wellhead, on the edge of
Right.
that, right? I mean, that was brought up in the last time. And I think we would recommend a hydrogeology study, monitoring wells for PFAS, for anything that's happening there. All of that resonate?
And they're proposing using a subterranean water treatment plant. Where is that gonna dump off to?
Which has a discharge that I assume, well, or infiltration.
Right.
We have a lot of questions.
Can I add?
Yeah.
We had quite a discussion with the previous development on turtle mitigation. And there were some recommendations made to try to protect the critters.
I don't think there was anything on turtles there.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah. it did
It's a
say-
parking lot.
No, but
Right next to it, just beyond it.
And, that's all right, John, we'll have them plant willow trees.
You can have plant willows all you want.
And I was just gonna, I don't know if we want to throw this out at this point, but, in my mind, the environmental impact of this development, by definition, should be less than a warehouse, because you don't have all the trucks and all that question about PFAS and truck oil that drips and whatnot. But having
But
said
you got
that.
a lot of cars.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of cars, but having said that, if there's any way to put in the letter, I don't know how y'all want to spin this, but to my way of thinking, it's a great opportunity for what's in our bylaw, maybe it's in the planning board regs, something called low-impact design. which is, like, green spaces in the parking lot, and there's a whole list of stuff. There's whole manuals on all this. But it might be a good opportunity for us to send the word to the state and to Davis that, assuming all agree, that we would look favorably on anything in their design that meets the definition of low-impact development. And a lot of the stuff they do already does meet that definition, but there's some other things. And again, their engineer knows what that guidance from the state looks like, best practices and all that.
Okay. So the question then becomes, David, is this something you're going to write or am I going to write it?
When the deadline is June 28th?
I think,
Is that what I
Virginia,
heard?
if I'm not mistaken, you need it sooner than that. You need to be able to compile this into the package that the select board.
I didn't see the request that came to you. I believe the board is discussing this on June 24th, so it would have to be in the packet for
before
that meeting.
So
It's not on our agenda for Monday, so our next
so
meeting.
it's the Wednesday, Thursday before the 24th.
Yes.
Might be kind of tough for me to do.
Virginia,
I'll see if I can take a
do you
draft
know
of
what,
it.
is it townhouses or apartment buildings, or do you know what it?
I don't
they're looking to
recall. I
do?
haven't looked at it in detail yet.
Oh, okay.
What kind of, do they want from us an opinion, or do they want us to
I think
beat it up?
to provide concerns that we have with any kind of a development.
But we don't have a plan.
No, but there's a concept. I mean, the documents that I sent, you should have
Yeah,
got,
yeah.
It's got some general, yeah. And so it's just like preliminary saying, do you have concerns with this project?
I'm sure they're going off of
Yeah.
what we had concerns of the warehouse. Okay?
Well, it's the same developer.
It's the same developer, they're gonna use everything we said about the warehouse in their language,
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
I understand that, I think Peter mentioned about the, no trucks going down here, but there's still gonna be a ton of motor vehicles.
Lot
I
more
think it's
cars, yeah.
1.67, is that what it is,
That's planning
Chris?
board.
Per unit, or per, 1.67 cars per unit?
PTA,
Yeah, yeah.
and have a bus come.
Yeah, so you're talking hundreds of
Hundreds of
cars
cars.
versus a lot of trucks, but,
Right,
yeah,
right.
okay.
So, I mean, I think we certainly have environmental concerns and questions, and we're concerned about the impacts, potential impacts on the key interests we're looking at, right? Public, water supply, groundwater supply, erosion, storm damage, habitat, particularly the rare species habitat. So we've got concerns and questions about that.
Yep,
I think they're gonna use a lot of stuff from
that's fine.
the warehouse.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think we can,
So they know what they're coming in with.
okay, so
What I'm trying to say.
I will draft a letter. I'll circulate
They,
it.
they,
I think that we can probably review it. I'll try to get it so that we can review it at our next meeting, June 11th. And then we can submit it with any further changes after that. Does that make sense? You guys okay with that? Okay, all right.
Carl, just kind of, we had a great meeting on how to streamline these hearings, and when I think that through, doing this ahead of the game, to me, is the number one way to streamline the hearings and the follow-up peer reviews. If the developer can design to our questions before they come to us with a completed design, I think that would streamline the process, so this makes a lot of sense. I know it's a little different
This
because
is
it's
a
40B.
different situation,
I
yeah.
understand that, but to me, it's like good to get it out on the table.
for a 40B, does it go by the state? It all goes by the state, correct?
Yeah, I think the bylaws in town are not applicable.
We do. We still have our conservation jurisdiction. That's not
For
over
Wetlands Protection Act,
for wetlands,
The-
yes.
yes, but not the bylaws.
Correct.
The State Wetland Protection Act.
Right.
Which is very
Right.
similar.
The ZBA administers the wetland bylaw.
Yeah, okay. All right,
But they still gotta get a permit from us.
Under the Wetlands Protection Act, yes.
Exactly, yeah.
okay.
Right.
Okay, let's keep moving. We're making good progress here. We already did the next item on the agenda, if I'm not mistaken. We already did the open space discussion, the Warren Poll CR discussion. So you all had such a good time reading the CR. It was, Wonderful reading. Any comments, you guys, questions?
I thought it looked good. You guys put a lot of effort into it.
That's for
over
sure.
A year or so. I don't think you
Three or so.
years.
Plural.
So I don't think you could add much to it.
Okay.
Or
Yeah, we're
tweak it.
good. We're good. You need a vote or anything?
All right, yes, I would like a vote that would say you are supporting the, submitting the CR to the state, that the select board would be the ones, but we recommend the CR to the select board.
Okay.
to
I
be
make a
submitted.
No, no, you go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, I make a motion and then we approve submission of the CR as currently drafted to the state of Massachusetts
For Warren Poll.
For Warren.
for Warren Poll.
Thank you. Motion by Chris, second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, motion passes. Next is the, let's see, update. Anything else on Warren? Oh, so David, actually on Warren Poll, you have been talking with Matt at Oxbow, and I know there's some progress being, do you want to just do a short update on that?
Sure. So, commission members hopefully recall that he did a botanical survey and inventory last year of Warren Poll. He sent out the report, and part of that was to not only just do the survey and inventory, but to do some management recommendations, based on habitat. So I think the next step in the process now is to actually get a little bit more specific about and it's particularly with regard to invasive species. Decide on what species does the commission want to manage or control, and then develop a management plan or management plans addressed at those target species. So I think that's a matter of sitting down with him to do that. Maybe Carl and Peter and I, probably that might be the best way to do that if the commission is okay with that. So obviously, we'd come back to the commission with whatever he's proposing. So that's follow up to that study. And then we've asked him to submit a proposal for delineating the wetlands particularly in the meadow, although including Putnam Brook as it's going down toward Boston Road, because in the CR, since there's the obligation to preserve the meadow or conserve the meadow, whatever that means. I think before we can really come up with management plans for doing that, we need to have a better understanding of the flora, the plant species, and the soils, because what the commission might decide to do in the wetlands and uplands will be dependent on where the wetlands and uplands are located. So he's going to submit a proposal for that, which I think the thought that will come from CPA funds.
Right. Also, the delineation of the wetlands of the brook near the kiosk and the driveway, so
Yes.
that we can look at putting in a ADA compliant trail that would go in that area, but we need to know where the wetlands are and what our limitations are there, because that's another, I think it's a really good opportunity to do something like that. That site is just really, really good, would be really good for that kind of a trail. I don't think it would be enormous cost. I think it would be reasonable, maybe within there, but we gotta start with the wetland delineation. That's first step. So trying to get that done. So, anything else?
Not an Warren Poll.
Okay.
I can think of.
So then we did Coulis, and then agents report.
So I've just approved a few events. I know there was, I think on the weekend of, was it the 18th and 19th, there was an event at Russell Mill Pond. That actually was one that I had approved. I think
It was at Thanksgiving.
Aren't they close to? No.
They're still on the pond.
It's
Same
the
watershed.
same, it's just upstream, but
It's
it was
upstream.
Thanksgiving. It was a bike, bicycle race?
Well,
or-
that was in the event registration form.
yeah.
So, and then there were, I think, three other events, like in the middle of July, August, and September. Approved those as well. Then there was another one at Russell Mill Pond for Ninja.
Number.
Well, no, this one is
Oh,
Ninja.
it's Ninja.
This
Oh.
is Ride Like a Ninja.
Okay.
Which is another mountain biking club.
Okay.
That's- so I
Are
think
they the
that's-
Are they the ones with the machetes that are tagging the trees?
Maybe that's it.
Might be a good question. What does ninja mean?
Well, Teenage Ninja Turtles, remember that one? Mutant Ninja
Is that a
Turtles.
splinter group
Oh,
of
yeah.
Nemba?
Can you name them all?
NEMBA is the other mountain biking.
No, it sounds like it's a different group.
It is
so-
a different. NEMBA is New England Mountain Biking
Right,
Association.
right.
Ninja is Ride Like a Ninja, which is just another club.
Do they
I
have
think they're actually
permission to
based
do
out in
That-
Oregon.
He's giving them permission, yeah.
So that's coming
is
up, I
fine.
think, in early July. And then EPA at Deep Brook, somewhere along Deep Brook, I approved they do training, once a year they do training for their staff to take samples. So I approved that. And then I also approved 3 emergency tree cutting permits. One which the town had already agreed to pay for, which is the land next to 94 Meadowbrook Road. The commission approved that back, I think, in April.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of others are on private property that they also approved.
They're just within the 100-foot.
Right, there within the commission's jurisdiction.
Okay, okay. Great.
I got a call from a concerned citizen up at Freeman Lake again.
Okay.
Wanted to know the status of the survey, if that's still on your list.
It definitely is. I just, we need to get the Warren poll wrapped up, so
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you could keep it on your list.
Yeah, no, it's definitely on the list.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll get there sooner
Yep.
rather than later,
I told that person I would ask.
okay.
I got a call from a concerned constituent up there as well, Bill,
Really?
on the
Neighbors?
same topic. We'll have to
Really?
Talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did too.
There you go.
But I have a question for the commission. The photographs that were sent around with a little tiki hut and fire pit and whatnot. Very
That's-
nice looking
that's further
waterfront.
down.
That's not this part, that's not the conservation
No,
land
that's
we're
all the
talking
way
about.
at the end.
That's some sort of other
Yeah,
issue.
it's way down the other
There's
end.
not a whole bunch of structures. I drove
We've
by
already
there.
dealt
I-
with that. We've already dealt with that one.
Yeah, that's ancient history, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the other thing, can I bring up one more thing?
Yeah?
The Zoom meetings. They don't work. I mean, they work, but isn't it time to move on from that?
So.
I'd like to see
I'm a
people
little
come
torn.
before us.
I definitely like that. And this is the first time we've really had a problem, serious problem. We've had some glitches, but.
I mean, I think the option should be there, but it should work. I mean, as a practical matter, some consultants, I think especially, really don't have an option. Like I know Beta, they're based in Rhode Island. It's just so much easier for them to approve up here by Zoom.
And if I could just add, a couple other town committees I'm on that have Zoom options allows traveling committee members to participate, like if you're stuck in a hotel room.
They just need to
somewhere.
know that you may get continued.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that hasn't, that's the
Let's,
first time I remember
let's,
that happening.
Let's let our local IT expert jump in here as well.
I just wanted to say, so we had a couple issues. I believe it was the week before last. I think was it the planning board? Yeah. We had an issue with Zoom. It wasn't working. It was basically the same thing you guys witnessed tonight. And the protocol since then has been for me to come down and test everything ahead of the meeting. I did do that today. We still had a problem. So at this point, I'm pretty confident we have failing equipment back there. We'll be working this week to try to solve that. I don't know if that influences your decision at all, but I do apologize. I take full
Yeah.
responsibility, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't happen again in the future.
It's your fault that that thing broke.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Peter.
Appreciate the help and the work. So I'm kind of mixed either way. I do see the convenience for a lot of people that they can do this remotely, but on the other hand, I'm with you. I like having people in
I'm
the room.
old school, too. I'm old school. I like having the people
If
there.
if
like
there
how
was
people-
one representative here,
Huh?
National Grid, one rep,
Yeah.
that could answer a question, and three of them up there, you know, I mean, just one person.
Yeah, but the counter to that, I agree, that makes sense, but the counter to that, you know, for any of you still working, the business world has completely switched
Yeah.
to almost exclusively a hybrid kind of thing, Zoom and in person. That's just the way the world has changed. It wasn't a pandemic thing, it was happening before the pandemic,
We gotta
but
get
it
back to old
accelerated.
school.
You can't do old school when your technical
You
staff
can.
are 2 hours away, that's all.
Yes, you can.
No, you
It's
can't.
gonna, will it create a problem? We stay with Zoom and they don't, John brings a good point, one set of plans. That's not.
I'm not asking for a full
No,
set.
no, I know.
One sheet.
Oh, I'm not
I
finding
have-
fault, John. You're right. I agree with you.
Right.
But is that applicant gonna be able to get plans to us, or is that gonna fall on you to get them distributed?
It's, Mark, you press the button, and it spits out 6 copies.
Okay.
That's how easy
My
it is.
point, John. I'm in favor of what you're saying, but we're putting more on David to distribute them, get them up here.
Well, it's really on the applicant. I mean, as the applicant
they print 'em.
understands. I mean, like on 93 Brick Hill Road, the total of 8 revisions. And I think the only actual hard copy that I received from them was like the
Original.
initial filing. Yeah, it is work for me to then print them out myself, you know, print out 7, you know, copies. But it really, the
They
applicant.
should bring them in to you the week before, by Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Bring you
That's my point.
That's what they used to
I don't
do.
wanna get it on him.
That's what used to be done.
Yeah, that's what our
It's not on you.
I'll
That's
make
what
on
our
them.
reg-
Okay, so
I'll make
our
that clear.
regulations say
I'll-
that.
I'm going to ask that we hold off on the Zoom for the moment, and, but I would ask that you recommend people come in.
Okay.
That you recommend at least one person come in. But I get the point that some of the, you know, especially the peer reviews, they're a long ways away
Right, and,
necessarily.
you know, they have a lot of meetings that they have to go to. Sometimes they switch back and forth in the same night between meetings. They have to do that by
But
Zoom.
let's look at it again in like a month or so. and-
But how do you have somebody from their office drop off plans? How does that get done?
Well, that's not the same,
FedEx
that's two
them.
different things. Yeah, we're talking two different things. One is the Zoom and one is
Right,
the
but if
paper
they're on
copies.
Zoom, and we all wanna see a single copy plan,
They need to have the plans by the Wednesday before the meeting to David's
They can
office.
FedEx them to David,
Okay.
whether they're in Zoom or not. That's two different things, yeah.
And a lot of the consultants are local, right here in Chelmsford. Very easy for them to do.
So that's my
I just wanna
proposal
go
is.
through the logistics to make sure
Yep,
it can be done.
Yep, yep. Are you okay with that? Give it another just, see, you know,
It's on probation.
yeah, I like that, on
Double secret?
probation.
Let's say, is it possible to have them like call in on a phone? Do the remote participation that way? Because I've done that with historic districts.
That's,
Somebody can't come in.
whereas,
put 'em on
as a
the-
backup, if the Zoom had not worked, they could have, maybe we can look at that as a backup, but,
If it's not too
yeah.
You
technical.
like put them on speakerphone,
Yeah.
the phone out on the table.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, the old Polycom speakerphone things, you know, I have a couple
I've
of
done
those.
that.
okay,
We
all
all
right.
talk at once.
So we have meeting, we don't have any meeting minutes. Okay, no meeting minutes to approve. But we will get them for the next meeting, I'm quite sure of that.
I'm not gonna be here the 25th.
I'm not here the 11th.
Okay, all right.
Just telling you.
No Chris on the 11th, no Bill on the 25th, okay, all right. Take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move.
We got an update from John?
Yeah,
Yeah, we did coolest.
He
yeah,
did,
we did coolest.
okay.
It was wonderful. You did a good job.
Really?
Nothing really changed.
No, apparently.
Well, that's,
Well, we got that splinter.
Disbanded now,
We're about
right?
the splinter.
That's
group,
right.
remember?
Oh, okay,
that
that's,
task force is gone now.
Okay.
Oh, it is,
Let's
right?
close,
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Do we
closed.
vote yet?
can we adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Motion to,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye, aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Chelsea telling me to, thank you, Pete. Please.